anything. I don't know anything about this.
I did not see an inspection sticker. That's a good point. It's registered. Yeah, I noticed the license plate on the back, but there's no inspection sticker. Okay. And your name is? Thank you. Mostly it's
just wanted to know if I could get some sense of this parking size. What's your name? If we know which guy the chief is, we'll go after him. He might actually talk to one of us, but he's not going to talk to
Most people,
they supposedly
they're not just going to go with wherever the fuck is going.
Even if 99% of people in Keene said they wanted this, like I still
Well, they, what if 51% said they were for it? Isn't that the truth? If 51% said we wanted, 49% said we wanted, 51% said we didn't.
then I'd say okay.
But Georgia doesn't make right. You know,
Yeah.
if I punched Garrett in the face and I was in the wrong, but then everyone said, hey Pete, go ahead, you can do that, it still wouldn't make it any less wrong.
You're not. That's But what I'm saying is, if you went through, I would think the little hearings that they had and everything else, that if it was true representation of the people of town, and you got to admit, there was a lot of people from out of town that came in.
There was business owners against it, local folks.
That's true.
But
But
besides
it's
the
not
point,
most.
we can move past this and let's look at the bigger picture. Like, this was one of 300 BEARCATs that the feds, which, people say, oh, like, we didn't pay for it locally, but it still is money taken from people and money printed out of thin air. But I mean, what does it say for, like, what kind of society? Would you think 10 years ago there'd be hundreds and hundreds of these throughout the states? And
New Manchester's had this for 10 years.
Sure. It doesn't mean, Miami-Dade has 2 Apache helicopters that are fully armed. Does that mean Keene should have them?
That's awesome.
No, it's not.
I mean, just think about it. Why would you need it? Like,
Exactly. Why would Keene need this?
I guess Blue Thunder. You ever seen that movie?
I don't know.
You've seen the movie?
I don't think so.
Blue Thunder.
Not that I know of. What's it about?
It's about an Apache helicopter
No,
that
I've
goes
not
into LAPD, and it has silent running, and it's just an old 80s.
So how do you feel about Colorado and Washington?
What about them? What about them? They're a nice place to live.
No. You've
Nice
heard
place
about
to
the
visit.
marijuana thing, right?
We've had our discussions on my personal stance on that. So, hey, if they pass the law here, I would enforce it just the same as I enforce it now. Whatever the laws are is what I abide by.
What about like fugitive slave laws back in the day?
Those aren't on the books.
Well, they were.
What about the ones that
I
are
didn't
still
live
on the
then.
books but not enforced?
There's lots of things that they
Like,
forget
if you
to
look
take
up
off.
on a Sunday while you're peeing, are you going to arrest somebody for that? 'Cause
Well,
it's
they're still
on the
spitting on the
books.
sidewalk from when they had, what's it called? What's that coughing disease?
Like pneumonia or
No, it's the tuberculosis. That's still on the books about spitting on the sidewalk.
Well, essentially this comes down to what I would differentiate between law and legislation. You're saying you enforce whatever law is, but I would say it's legislation. If you enforce a law, that means like natural law that we all know pretty much how to act around each other. But if you're talking about legislation,
That's a strong statement.
And then
because I don't think most people do know how to act around each other. If that, we wouldn't need us at all.
No, exactly. Well, I think there's a lot of perverse incentives that are inherent in the institutions. Policing and all these other ones provided from the top down. That
I would tend to agree that there's police departments that would be considered corrupt. New Orleans.
Where?
Because there's even smaller towns that have it. I mean,
Where?
you
Where?
can even look in this state and probably find some. But
So the question is then, if there may be a propensity or there's an occurrence, at least in some cases, for corruption, why is that? And then if we both agree that lessening that that frequency of that is a good thing, then how do we best make that happen? Is it to have the service provided by a monopoly, as is currently the case, where accountability is tough because the same people who create the law, judge the law, and interpret the law, and investigate themselves, or is it through
the judges don't do it. They're the ones that interpret it.
But ultimately, it's all the same.
Supreme Court.
It's
not. There's 3 different branches.
Well, the checks and balances that are put up on high as being a good thing to protect rights actually make it more likely our rights are violated, I would say, because those people involved, they're just doing their job and they're not directly tied. You see, like, there's such a disconnect between the voter to this person, to the legislator, to
that's a whole different,
to the correctional officer.
Whole different topic.
But every individual along is culpable in some capacity, but because they're only doing a little bit of the subjugation of person's rights.
Aren't those shoes difficult to stand in this weather?
Yeah, I got shoe robbed last night, so backups. Fun time.
Signs aren't going to make it, I don't think. That's all right.
Did I usually get my
Yeah, it should be open.
I took a bunch of pictures.
Okay, thank you.
And
Perfect.
Were they the leftovers from before?
So no point making them
Recycle, reuse.
Hey, I don't disagree with that. I recycle.
So how are they going about, like, are they saying, hey, you 10 employees, do y'all want to get trained on driving or
I don't know.
operation? Or
I'm not in charge of that. I haven't even been in it.
would you, I'm asking KPD employees to personally decline to drive or be involved with the operations of BEARCAT. Is that something you're willing to do?
Not at your behest.
I mean, I'm asking you to think about. I wouldn't want you to do anything because of me. I'd ask you to think about your own conscience and ask, is this something that you?
Well, I would then put the same question back at you. Think of your conscience.
Oh, I would.
How does that make sense? Don't we do that every day?
What do you mean? Do what?
Don't we think introspectively every day?
Oh, definitely.
When we
I
wake
hope
up?
so. I hope so.
I think so.
I mean, I would hope. The reason I ask is because, you and your colleagues claim a legitimate right to initiate force, and I don't think that makes sense. So the fact that y'all now have that toy to play with, doesn't bode well in my book.
To say play,
Well, I heard that, I don't know if you can call it
with this thing?
this year. No, earlier this year. But now that y'all have that piece of equipment, like what are the likelihood it's going to get utilized?
I don't know what you're talking about.
During Pumpkin Fest, there were a lot of students saying that there was a party that there was gas deployed into the backyard.
We don't have gas.
Tear gas canister?
We don't have anything like that. All we have is OC spray, and I don't remember anyone using it. And I was working. So sometimes people say things just because they just say it because they're drunk.
Do you have OC canisters that you can deploy that release?
I don't know, because I'm not. If we did, it would be the SWAT team that had it. Because I don't even like that stuff.
I agree.
I hate it.
So do I.
It really affects me in a bad way.
I hear you.
So I don't. If I don't have to use it, I don't. I hate it.
But the fact that those tools.
I don't know if that's an accurate. I think someone might have just said that thinking you guys know.
Well,
I'm not aware of anything.
If it's not true, then I hope to be corrected because I don't want to clarify.
No, because we don't have gas. Yeah, we do have OC, but not. And we do have the ability to, fire it. Like with those 40 millimeter things.
So that's
those
probably that could have been one.
But
of
we
those.
didn't use those.
It wasn't like a crowd dispersal sort
No,
of.
not that I know of. And I was working the whole night. I was working until 2 a.m.
Yeah, some kids said that y'all tear gassed at the party. I don't think so. We wouldn't do that. That would cause everyone to panic and. Yes, that's true. They said sometimes just showing up is enough, right? I've walked into parties and yelled and had people jumping out windows. And all I did was yell. So, what are you gonna do?
Yeah. Well, if there was as many people there as they said there was, there should have been someone with a video camera. So
You would think.
we haven't seen that yet.
I wouldn't tend to believe it is an exaggeration.
So let's say like 10 years ago, like KPD probably never dreamed of having this sort of vehicle, and then now there's one here. And fast forward 10 years, what sort of precedent does it set, and is it where you want to leave, like for the next generation? Is it moving in the right direction, a more militarized police department?
I don't even really understand what your question was there. You made a statement, but
Do you think Keene will ever have its own UAV?
I wouldn't know what we would use that for.
What are y'all
Well,
planning
10 years ago, you wouldn't have expected to have one of these
I
or
was
known
actually
what it was
surprised
going
we
to be
didn't have
used
one of
for.
those 10 years ago or so.
What if they were offered a grant for one?
Right.
They're expensive.
Right, but if DHS is giving them away,
I don't know. I can't speak for what the city council is.
Well, actually, this was put in by Mayola, McLean, and the financial.
All right, but the city council had to agree. It has to go. They just don't do things arbitrarily.
And did you see the clip of one of them saying, "Oh, we're getting a tank," like all excited about having a more militarized vehicle?
I mean, people classify it as that, but I think that's just a layman's term for it. It's not.
well, that's what city council called it.
That's what I said, a layman's term.
I mean, the trend seems to be moving away from transparency. Y'all used to allow for ride-alongs 2 years ago, change that
You know why
policy.
that came because we have the computers in
Sure,
in
but
the
you
car.
can turn the MDTs slightly towards the employee.
That came down from the NCIC people directly. That's where that came from because there's too much information on those that could be seen.
Maybe y'all shouldn't be collecting and centralizing all that information. Then, if that's a word.
Centralization's at the state.
No, centralizing.
It's
Oh,
at
I
the
know
state.
exactly.
It comes to us.
I'm just saying it's
decentralized.
It's a example of the top-down sort of way that like this is coming through.
It's the information. Like if let's say I know your driver record, I can't go tell him. You. I can't say that.
Right, but for you and your colleagues, like picking up every amount of info about other folks, feeding them.
It's just gonna get wet. I don't have a pocket to put it in.
No, you don't want to sing?
No, I don't want to sing.
No, why not? Singing is fun. It makes you
You're
happy.
certainly welcome to sing. I don't really have a voice for that. You guys are infringing on my Christmas listening music. That's what I usually do through the day. From
We're not the ones that
Thanksgiving-
scheduled
We
this
could probably do some of this to Christmassy kind of
From
songs.
Thanksgiving to Christmas, I listen to Christmas music.
Story of the world, that's close enough.
I'll let you guys sing.
Oh, I'm thinking of Mark.
It's kind of the same thing. When there's enough people there who want the same thing,
The way these are,
I don't know.
the way these were distributed, they were.
So I was just reading up on you guys online, and I'm wondering how you get people who want TP boosters to come to New Hampshire.
yeah.
How do you accommodate them? Housing, jobs? How does that work?
Yeah, he said he'll check and get back to
Yes. You're talking about the thing?
Yeah, the version of Microsoft Office, but it's much better. I've got a copy of the 9180 open office.